Hello, hello. Good, good. Good morning, everybody. How are you? I'm Lucia Espindola, Township Social Worker, for those that do not know it. And today, we are doing a senior safety seminar. So we invited the Montclair Police Department, the Montclair Fire Department, the Montclair Ambulance Unit, Hackensack Meridian, their pharmacists and pharmacy students, and Life Alert. So, as you know, I really love the word prevention, and this is all about that, and it's about keeping you safe. So, we're gonna have the tables for you to go after the presentation, and of course, after that, we're gonna have lunch. So, we're gonna start with the Montclair Fire Department.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Justin Thompson. I'm the fire official for the Montclair Fire Department. I oversee the Township of Montclair and the Borough of Glen Ridge. So our Fire Prevention Bureau is located at 1 Pine Street, so right down this street, the main fire headquarters on the 2nd floor. So the main purpose of the Fire Prevention Bureau is to enforce the Uniform Fire Code for the state of New Jersey. So we do inspections anytime someone sells a 1 or 2 family house in Montclair. We have to do a fire inspection. All the restaurants in Montclair, we inspect all those. We inspect a lot of the apartment buildings, the ones that are registered with the state. We enforce fire code violations, fire escapes. We kind of do it all over there. So one of the main things we're going to talk about today is, of course, fire prevention safety tips. And before I start, I'm from Montclair, grew up here, was raised here, been on the fire department for about 16 years now. So the first question I have, where is the closest exit in this room? Right, I see my hands going, so yeah. So it's going to be, it depends on where you're sitting. So I've been in certain rooms, apartment buildings, and I've asked people similar questions. And one of the first places they usually point to is the door that they entered the room in, because they're so used to going in and out. Even though there would be an exit that would be right here, if we were all facing that way, most people would point to that exit there, because that's the exit that they came into. So the key thing is awareness of your surroundings, no matter where you're at. Whether you live in an apartment building, whether you live in a residential home, understand how to get in and out of the building. If there's fire escapes, where the fire escapes are located, if they're in good condition. Fire extinguishers, we check fire extinguishers. If you look at these fire extinguishers in this room, you'll see a little tag hanging off of them. That tag shows what year and month they were last inspected. That's what we go and look for when we're looking at, to check to see if fire extinguishers are working. The Fire Prevention Bureau does not have a big staff, so we can't be everywhere. So people in here have to be our eyes and ears. If they see something, they have to feel free to reach out to us and say something. After it's all over, I have cards on the desk. You can take one. You can email the Fire Prevention Bureau, call us if you see anything. So as far as fire safety tips, I'm assuming, is there a mix of people who live in apartments and one-family homes? Show of hands, how many people live in one-family homes? Okay, what about apartments? Okay, so we got almost an even mix. So the strategies, once we get to evacuation, are going to be a little different for if you live in a regular one-family home or two-family home versus if you live in an apartment building. But before we get to that, we're going to get to some fire safety tips related to cooking. So how many people in here have set off the cooking alarm, smoke detector in their house? Ever? So we've all done it, or we know someone who has done it. Cooking fires are one of the major fires that we go to. Unattended cooking, people falling asleep. We've gone to calls where people were cooking at 2 in the morning and they fell asleep and left the stuff on the stove, and then you had a buildup of carbon monoxide. Because when you cook all day, if you're cooking all day, especially holiday time, 4th of July is coming up, now you have the windows open, but in the wintertime, it's Christmas time, Thanksgiving, windows are going to be closed. You might be cooking something on the stove for 8, 12 hours. That builds up slowly carbon monoxide. And does anybody know why carbon monoxide is so dangerous?
Odorless.
Yes. Colorless, odorless, tasteless, which is why we recommend that each apartment, if you live in an apartment, have a carbon monoxide detector. If you live in a residential home, carbon monoxide detectors should be in the basement area and then within 10 feet of the bedroom areas. Okay? Battery operated are fine? Yes.
In an apartment house, in your apartment, how would you know if there is smoke?
You're gonna have to look. So, and when you first move in there, or if whoever's the maintenance person, that's the question you should ask them. Say, where is my smoke detector and where is my carbon monoxide detector? Some buildings have them where it's a smoke and carbon monoxide combination detector. So it'll just be one detector, but it'll do both jobs. So you might be looking for 2 devices and it might only have one. Now what the state of New Jersey recommends is the 10-year sealed smoke detectors. So if you're installing battery operated smoke detectors, we recommend a 10-year seal. Once you activate them, they're supposed to be good 10 years after the manufacturing date, so you don't have to, do the whole, every time the time changes, change the battery in your smoke detector. You just leave it up there and you should be good. Yes? Yeah. I would go by the manufacture date just to be on the safe side. So that's what I recommend. As far as kitchen fires, a lot of times we see burns, and the ambulance unit sees burns also. One of the main causes of the burns is loose clothing. A lot of people have their nightgowns on, their pajamas on, they're reaching over the burner, the stuff drops down, it catches fire, now you have a burn. So if we have a burn, I know something that my grandmother used to tell me, which I had to keep telling her she was wrong. She would say, when you have a burn, you put something on your finger or wherever you're burned at. Who knows what that is, the old school way of doing things. Butter, yes. We don't want to put butter or oils all over, you don't. She used to lather my finger up and I knew it was wrong, but you wash it off later. You don't want to put that on there. Depending on the type of burn, if it's a minor, cool water. If it's something severe, you obviously want to notify the ambulance unit. And then of course the nearest burn hospital is St. Barnabas. The other thing is electrical fires. So electrical fires are a big issue also. One of the main reasons is people like to overload the outlets. They plug a bunch of stuff into it, they get the adapters, the power strips, they plug everything they can in there. That's something you have to be cautious about. If you are going to use it, you want to have something with a surge protector on it. And you don't want to use extension cords as a substitute for not having an outlet. So sometimes what I'll see is someone might not have an outlet in their basement, so they'll run an extension cord all the way down one end of the basement to their washer or dryer. Or you'll see it in the house to their air conditioning unit or a heating unit, portable heating unit. That's stuff you don't want to do. Sometimes they'll run it under rugs, carpets. You don't want to rug any extension cords under any rugs, under any doors. Those things, they get beat up, they get worn, they start to fray, and you leave them there for years. Most people don't inspect their extension cords. So if you do have extension cords, you should be inspecting them. Check to see if they're frayed. If you see any kind of bend in it or any kind of wire sticking out, get rid of it. It can cause a fire. Again, with stuff that has a high electrical load, like air conditioners, you don't want to plug those into extension cords. Those should go directly into your wall to reduce the chance of shock or fire. And that same thing goes for cooking equipment. Everybody has these different cooking equipments, these toaster ovens. They're loading stuff up with these power strips. Sometimes these power strips can't handle it. So you need to be cautious on what you're doing. As far as fire spread, people really underestimate how quickly fire spreads once it gets going. We had a cooking fire that I was on the first fire truck there. Now this fire was only maybe 4 blocks away from the firehouse. It was during the daytime, so we were all up. We got dressed as quick as we could. Came in as smoke condition. The shift supervisor usually gets there first because they don't have to put all their equipment on. They just drive there and they run the whole incident. So when they got there, they told us that there was just heavy smoke coming out of the second floor window. My fire truck was maybe 60 seconds behind him. By the time we got there, we pulled up, I saw flames blowing out of the window on the second floor. So it went that quickly from just heavy smoke to now the flames were exposed outside, and then the flames went up the second floor into the third floor apartment and caught that on fire also. And that was all because someone was frying food, someone rang the doorbell, they didn't turn the stove off, they just went out there for a second to talk. Next thing you know, their whole kitchen is burned, the whole house, second and third floor gone in a matter of a few minutes. We're getting back into the warmer weather, but when it was colder out, space heaters are another big thing. Be very careful with space heaters. I've seen some people who have space heaters that are as old as I am, and they rattle and they smell weird. Don't use those, just get a new one, okay? Another thing we wanted to get into was escaping when there is a fire. So like I said at the beginning, it's going to depend on where you live at. So I'll start with people who live in apartment buildings. So apartment buildings, there's usually going to be multiple ways to get in and out of that building. So you need to know, whatever floor you live on, how many exits do you have to get out of there, and also what type of building it is. So these larger buildings, they're usually made of fire-resistant construction, which means they're made to withstand a lot of fire and not to burn to the ground. You also need to know, does your building have sprinklers? Do they have sprinklers, and do the sprinklers work? That's one thing that we check for. We look to try to make sure the sprinkler systems are running. So if you live in an apartment building, it's fire-resistant construction, let's say it's a big building, and it has sprinklers, depending on where the fire is going to depend on how you're going to do it. And no situation is going to be perfect. So if there is a fire alarm goes off, before you leave your apartment, what's the first thing you should do with the door? Let's say it's your front door. Your front door is already closed, the alarm's going off, you know it's not your apartment, but you're about to go into the hallway. What should you do before you go into the hallway? Check the door, check for heat. You want to make sure that there's nothing on the other side of that door. No matter what kind of building you're in, even if you're in a residential home, check the door, touch the handle, okay? Once you open that door, check the hallway, see if there's smoke. If there's a lot of smoke in the hallway, you have to assess your ability to make it out of that building. What we tell people is there's 2 strategies. If you're able-bodied and you're able to evacuate the structure, then you should do so. However, if you feel like you cannot make it, do not try. If you're in a building that's sprinklered or fire-resistant construction, you're going to have to do what's called shelter in place. And that's something that's very common, especially in cities where you see these big buildings. It causes more chaos for everyone to leave the building as opposed to people staying in their apartments and letting the fire department extinguish the fire. Because sometimes there's fires in buildings and people didn't even know there was a fire in the building because they were so isolated from it. What we don't want is you trying to escape being overcome by smoke in the hallway or the stairwell and then collapsing now that creates a new problem for the fire department to deal with, because now the fire is not the main priority, rescuing you is the main priority. If you have a window and you can see the fire department, you can verbalize to the fire department for help. Let them know that someone's up there. Some apartment buildings have staff that keep track of people who have disabilities, who can't. Ask your apartment building if you have a super or manager, do you keep a list of people who have disabilities or who are going to shelter in place? You'll get priority as far as if the fire's in your area. The other thing, if there's a lot of smoke, you want to stay low to the ground. If you have to crawl, then crawl. If you're stuck and you have to stay in your apartment unit, we don't want you hiding. Don't hide in the bathroom, don't hide in any closets, don't hide under the bed. You want to be someplace where we can find you. If you have to barricade yourself someplace, your bedroom is probably going to be the best way. But the old school method of getting a towel, wetting it, putting it on the door, that still works. It hasn't changed if there's smoke coming in inside the apartment. The reason we say the bathroom, some people think the bathroom is safe because it has tile in it, it has water running in it, they think they're good there. The problem is the bathroom windows are typically the smallest windows in the place. And a firefighter with all that gear cannot fit inside there, and they're not going to be able to get you out of there. So you don't want to be trapped in the bathroom. If you're in a residential unit, it's a little different. Residential units almost always are going to be wood frame buildings, so they're going to burn. For that, you have to also think of several ways to get out. Obviously the front door is the best way. What everyone's been recommending, if there's a fire in your home and you can get out the front door, close the door behind you. And that's the same if you're in an apartment building. The reason is because fire needs oxygen to spread. So when people leave the door open, it creates a draft that feeds the fire, and then it helps it spread more quickly than it would have before. So we recommend closing the door behind you. If you're in a residential place, think about what window would be the best window if you had to get out of that building. Let's say you're on the second floor of your one family, you're in your bedroom, and there's a fire, there's a bunch of smoke coming up the stairwell, you can't get out that front door. Which room on that second floor is the best to get out? I had gone to one house recently, they were trying to figure out what was the best way to escape. They thought it was for everyone to leave out of the parents' room. The problem with the parents' room was there were a bunch of bushes out front, and there was a big tree out front which would have prevented us from getting ladders up there. It was one of the kids' bedrooms that was actually the best bedroom that we agreed was to evacuate from, and it also had an awning that they could get out on and actually jump down if they needed to. Those are the things you need to think about. Extinguishers. Residential homes, you should have an extinguisher in your kitchen area, okay? Anytime a one or two family house is sold, it's required in order to sell your house to have a fire extinguisher that is mounted. Before, people used to put it under the cabinets, put it wherever to hide it. Now it has to be visible. So we recommend, if you do have a home, mount an extinguisher, because when something happens, you're not going to know where that extinguisher is. You're usually going to panic and either just run to get out or try to spray water on it, and that's not what we want you to do. If you have a cooking fire, grease fire, are we going to spray water on it? No. No, right. Water and oil doesn't mix. It's going to spread the fire. So ABC type extinguisher, that extinguishes most of the fires that you're going to encounter. Or good old baking soda to smother it. Or if you have a pot lid cover, you can put that over it also to smother it out. So those are the things we recommend.
Can you use salt?
Can you use who?
Salt.
No, I would not use salt. That is not going to work. Exactly, yes. The other thing with placement of your smoke detectors. So we talked about placement of carbon monoxide detectors. near the bedroom areas and in the basement areas. With smoke detectors, also, the state fire code now recommends within 10 feet of any bedrooms and on each level of the house, but now the state has recommended that it should be in every bedroom, because if you have a fire in the bedroom and the door is closed, the alarm isn't going to go off until the smoke gets into the hallway. So again, a 10-year seal, smoke alarm battery is what's recommended, and if you are able to, you should put one in each bedroom and test it monthly. Get a little pole, just stick it, push the test button, it'll go off. It takes 10, 15 seconds, and you're done. The last thing I'm going to talk about is hoarding. So hoarding is something that is a big problem in Montclair. And the Montclair Ambulance Unit is going to go a little deeper into it because they deal with it also. But hoarding is a dangerous situation, not just for you, your family members, but also for first responders who are going to respond to rescue you. I've gone in residential homes that have had newspapers stacked to the ceiling. We've had stacks fall on top of us. We've had newspapers and rubbish all up the stairwell. That makes it extremely difficult for us to get to you, to help you, and it also gives the fire a lot of fuel to burn. So obviously, if that is an issue you're experiencing or a family member, again, the Montclair Ambulance Unit is going to go into more of it, but try to find the proper treatment to try to deal with it. I have family members that I argue with all the time who have the same issue. They have magazines from 1980 in there, and they think they're just going to keep holding on to them. But that stuff really needs to go out, okay? It makes everybody's lives easier. Does anybody have any questions? All the way in the back. You don't have to close your bedroom door. And again, I would say, is there a detector in your bedroom door? So if you only have detectors in the hallway and you have your bedroom door closed and the fire starts in your bedroom, nothing's going to wake you up until that smoke gets on the outside of the bedroom. So I would say it depends. I don't think it matters. I think if you have enough detectors, unless you're a really deep sleeper, once that alarm goes off, you're going to wake up. The key thing is having the awareness in the middle of the night to know how to evacuate. Keep your glasses, medication next to you, something that you can just grab and evacuate your home. So I would say it's okay to leave your door open or closed, but I would say try to have a smoke detector in each room. We won't know. We won't know. The only way we know is if someone is keeping records of it, maybe the same records that they would have to let us know that somebody's disabled. If you put something on the door, such as something regarding a pet or a pet inside, we might see it. Again, that's all going to depend on, obviously, if it's smoky, we won't be able to read it. But if you could put something outside your door, it's going to at least let us know that we should be looking for an animal at some point during that whole fire scene. So they probably, you can ask your super what the process is for that. So the requirements, at least from the fire prevention side, is that the ones in the common areas, such as the hallways, those have to be inspected annually and have a tag on them. The ones in your apartment unit, we don't enter those. Usually the state of New Jersey, the housing authority, will come in and inspect your actual units. We inspect the common areas. But your fire extinguisher inside your actual apartment, it should be fine for several years. So most fire extinguishers they'll last anywhere from 7 years or something like that. But the ones in the hallways have to be inspected because they have to know that those work. But you should talk with whoever manages your apartment about if they're keeping track on what year they purchased that fire extinguisher. Okay, so they were probably looking to see if it was still charged, so that little line to show that it's still in the green. Yeah, so that's one of the big things. Obviously, if you see that it's not in the green zone and it says recharge, then you need to let someone know immediately for your building.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yes.
So if it's got the green line, it's okay.
Yes.
If it's in the red, let them know.
Yes, let them know you want a new one.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. So thank you very much, Fire Officer Justin Johnson from the Montclair Fire Department. And now we're gonna invite Jonathan Pryor. He's from the Montclair Ambulance Unit, and I wanna remind you, to those that know, and let you know, to the ones that do not know that the Montclair Ambulance Unit is a non-for-profit organization, so they need our support, right? Thank you.
Thank you. Can we all hear me? Yes. Awesome. Good morning. As our lovely host, my name is Jonathan Pryor. I'm the Supervisor of Education and Community Outreach for the Montclair Ambulance Unit. I've been with the department about 5.5 years now. Started my career in EMS when I was 16 as a volunteer and really never looked back. I fell in love with the industry and fell in love with the mission statement. I'm going to go over a few topics with you guys today, from fall prevention to hoarding to how to take medication properly. So fall prevention, everyone falls, it happens at every age, whether you're a toddler, you're 90 years old, you're 25. I fell down a hill yesterday just running around with my younger siblings. Falls happen. Falling properly, it sounds funny, but it's a skill. We always want to fall on our bottom as best as we can. Naturally, our body wants us to put our hands out in front of us, right? So if we're falling and we have anything in our hands, we want to drop those immediately, because that's going to stop our natural instinct of putting that hands out to protect our face and our upper torso. If you're going to fall, try, depending on where you are, grass, carpeted material, but getting up is the harder part, right? Whether you're injured, you have some pain somewhere. When you do fall and if you feel pain, don't hesitate to call 911. I have 45 career EMTs that will happily come help you get off the floor, whether it's just to get you back onto the couch or end up taking you to the hospital. Those 45 career staff members are very good at what they do. They're going to come in, they're going to do a full medical evaluation on you, make sure that your vitals are okay, your blood pressure, your heart rate, and if it was just a true slip and fall, your slipper slipped off and it took you down, we'll get you back up. Now, what we don't want you guys doing is lifting yourself up off of bookshelves or unsecured materials. Because if I went to go up to a bookshelf and pull myself up on it and it wasn't secured to the wall, that's going to end up tipping over, and that becomes a whole nother emergency in itself. Yes?
Are you talking about dialing 911?
Yes. So you call 911, you're going to get some of the Montclair dispatchers. They're going to call over to our building and say, hey, go over to 123 Main Street for the fall victim. My 2 staff members are going to go down to the ambulance and zip on over to you and get you off the floor. And it happens all day long. And it's just a part of our day, and we're so used to it, and it doesn't bother us. We're happy to see you. We want to make sure you're okay. Now, other things to be worried about when you do fall is making sure before you get yourself up, if you're capable, that there are no pain anywhere, whether it's your hips, your upper legs, or your arms. If you do start feeling pain as you move, stop. Let us come evaluate you on that, okay? Because a simple fall can dislocate your hip, can fracture your pelvis, and that's something we are trained to evaluate. And we will let you know if we suspect something like that to get you over to a hospital. And we do take you to your hospital of choice. It's not like we force everyone going to one facility. If your primary care physician is affiliated to one network, and that is a close enough hospital and within reason of injury, we'll happily take you there. If we see something that makes us feel we should take you to a facility of higher care, whether it's a trauma or a burn center, we are going to recommend that we take you there. Does that make sense? Awesome. So any questions on falling? Oh, good. Hoarding. So hoarding comes down to, at the end of the day, it is a disease in itself. It has a portion of mental health to it. People think hoarding is just the collectors. It is not. Collectors like to show us their materials. Hoarders often enough want to hide that from people. Hoarding can become dangerous not only for, yes?
I have another question.
Yes.
If you're in the bathtub, and you fall,
cell phone, life alert, any of those push button alert buttons. Some iPhones and smartphones nowadays have fall alert devices on them. My Apple Watch, if I were to take a good enough fall or get in a car accident, it would alert emergency services to let them know that I've been involved in an incident and here's my relative location. And that way, patrol would be able to get over there and kind of give an information to 911 being, oh, we're at a car accident or we got here and we have a fall victim, if you could start the ambulance. And relative information like that would be passed along to the people who would need to get there. With hoarding though, it comes down to that mental health issue, and when myself or the fire department arrives, often enough we're gonna have to send the fire department in first because it might be an unsafe scene for my staff. We are not trained in what's called an SCBA, those masks the fire department wears when they go into a working fire. And dependent on the hoarding situation, the air inside the residence might not be safe for us to breathe. So we're gonna send the fire department in first to get you guys outside so we can do our evaluation. Hoarding is a mix of levels, whether it's just a rough collection of newspapers stacked up too high, or a collection of animals that exceed, the Humane Society's 1 to 3 pets per residence. And over time with that, it becomes stains of animal feces to rodents and insects infecting the house, and that becomes an unsafe scene for us. Bed bugs, cockroaches. Heaven forbid we get bed bugs on us and go back to our station where 45 of my staff members hang out during their day. It ends up going back to our private residence with that. The FD is well trained in decontamination, where they can go in and do that and then bring the patient out to us. Along with, once we take that patient to the hospital, they're going to be decontaminated in a room at the hospital before being fully seen and evaluated. Any questions on hoarding? Okay. Proper medication. So we do have the pharmacy department with Mountainside here today, so please correct me if I'm wrong in any of this. But when it comes to taking medication, there is things to think about. When you get prescribed a medication, talk with your physician who's prescribing it about everything, the side effects, contraindications, anything like that that might scare you the first time, especially if it's your first time taking that specific medication. It might make you a bit drowsy, or it might make your heart rate go up a bit. And if you didn't know that, that can be a very scary feeling. Don't share your medication. This is something I see often on the ambulance is a husband or wife shares a medication they're prescribed because like, oh, you're having the same symptoms, go ahead and just take mine. And it's not the right dose, it's too much or too little. Medications are prescribed to you by a doctor, and specifically you for your medical need. Your body size, your body weight, your body demographic is taken into full thought behind what they're prescribing you. Once you're done taking your medication, whether it's out or you just have one pill left and your pharmacist or your physician told you to stop taking the medication, take it back to the pharmacy or take it back to a pill collection point. Leftover medication shouldn't be left in a medicine cabinet where grandkids or your kids could get into it and accidentally take it. We want to make sure medications are secured high enough where kids can't get it, whether it's behind a locked cabinet door or out of reach is really the goal. Keep your medications in a safe, cool place. Medications are temperature controlled dependent on what they are. So if it's a refrigerated medication, don't leave it on your counter, put it back in the fridge. Don't leave medications in your car. As we all know, it's a really hot day out today. Leaving medications like EpiPens in a car overnight or during a hot day can end up causing that medication to expire or go bad. So it's very important we keep them in a safe, cool place. Follow all the instructions behind your medications. So if they say take it on a full stomach, please do. There are certain medications where you're taking it on an empty stomach can cause a lot of issues. I had that one experience myself as a teenager. I was put on a medication, had to rush off to school, just took the medication, got on the bus. Next thing you knew, I ended up in my own ambulance, passed out on the bus. So certain medications can have those kind of side effects, so making sure that you follow those directions are very important. If you guys have any questions on your medications, asking your pharmacist when you get the medication. That's what they are there for. They can help answer a lot of questions that you may have. Whether it's a local pharmacy or a CVS, all of them are trained pharmacy techs or pharmacists themselves and are able to answer those questions. Along with that, I'm guilty of this, changing pharmacies and leaving one prescription one place, another prescription at the CVS down the street, one at Grove. What we need to do is make sure all our pharmacy prescriptions are going to one pharmacy, because then the pharmacists themselves can actually catch mistakes that the physicians may have made. Because if you're going to multiple doctors who are prescribing multiple medications, they don't always talk with each other, so they don't know that you're on medication A, which might contraindicate with medication B. So having it at one pharmacy can catch those little mistakes that may happen. Okay? Do you guys have any questions on these topics? I have a lot more information we can go. Yes, in the back. So when it comes to an unresponsive or unable to communicate patient, dependent on the situation, we may actually go into the kitchen to look around, may step into your bathroom, but we always will have a law enforcement officer as best as possible for that situation because they're usually the first on scene for a high priority call like that. They're on the road 24/7. My ambulances are stationed in the house, so they're usually there before us for something like that. So we had the body cam footage of us going through these residents to make sure. We'll look for pill medications, indications of certain types of doctors. If we see a cardiologist note, we're like, oh, there might be something cardiogenically wrong. But what we do have here today for you guys are two different documents, a file of life and a medication or a medical ID card. So these two documents really help my staff out majorly, and if we're not around, it may help a mutual aid ambulance. What it is your name, your address, your medical history, medications, and any special instructions you may have for us. So if you're unresponsive or unable to communicate, we have you fill this out, pre-incident. You place it in this envelope and you place this on your fridge. Now, law enforcement, fire, and EMS, this is something we do look for. They have different names, file of life, vial of life, medication or medical ID cards. These things really help us. When I go to car accidents and unresponsive patient, this is something that I may look for. Along with now in smartphones, iPhones, Androids have a medical ID. So it's a special piece of the phone where you can go set it up with your name, emergency contact, and pertinent medical information. And we wouldn't have to end up unlocking your phone. It's a part of the emergency process on it. We would hit your emergency button, and on the lower right side, it would say medical ID. And we would have your name, your home address, and an emergency contact to get in contact with somebody if need be. So all these three, different ways of communicating with us if you're unresponsive. And if you don't take one of these, just a piece of paper with your name, medical information, and your medications really can change the outcome for you. Because if we go into a residence where there's no information, we have to, really figure out what's going on, and then we play a bit of medical detective there before we bring you to the hospital. Because when we go to the hospital, we have to give a well in-depth report to the ER physicians so they can come up with a treatment plan for you.
So you can all take 2 cards, so you can keep one in the refrigerator and one in your wallet. So take please 2 cards.
And then we have the extended form that can go on your fridge as well. Yes. Yes.
So we also have like a few cards that you guys could add. So what it is, it's a little pocket thing. It probably could fit into this.
Easily fit, yeah.
So what it is, it's a little pocket card. You can write all the medications you're on, so I'll help them out if they ever come to your house. On the back of it, it also has a little section for any allergies. If you have any medication allergy, if you have any food allergies, any allergies to latex, and if you also have a primary care physician, you can fill it out. But the most important part is any allergies and then again medication. So maybe a little bit more redundant, but we have plenty of them that you can also come take as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for EMS?
And I don't know the answer to this. What happens when you want to go to that hospital? I know it's probably a complicated answer, but in your best way to answer it for people, how do you determine what hospital you take of a patient?
So dependent on the situation, if you're a stable patient and we're not seeing any immediate life threat, we'll happily transport you to a hospital within a reasonable distance. So, at the end of the day, we follow a bunch of state guidelines, and the state guideline states we are supposed to take you to the closest appropriate facility for what you need. Now, within reason of that, if it's just a slip and fall and you prefer one hospital over another, and it's a 5-minute difference, I'll happily take you that distance. Now, if you want me to take you to New York City, that's a whole nother ballgame. I can't really go that far for any medical emergency. If it's a life-threatening emergency, whether it's a trauma or a burn, there are designated hospitals in the state that are designed to treat those injuries. So our 2 trauma hospitals in the area, one is in Patterson and one is in Newark. Our certified burn center in the state is up in Livingston. So dependent on the injury and the nature of the medical, we'll take you within reason to a hospital of your choice. If we see something that is of concern for us and of concern to your life, we will tell you we'd prefer to take you to a closer hospital due to what's going on. So once again, within reason, if there's an immediate life threat, I will take you to the closest appropriate facility to stabilize you, and they could arrange in a facility transport to get you to that hospital. But if there's no immediate life threat, where we're talking minutes, they will take you to Barnabas if that's where you want to go. But it comes down to what is going on at that moment. And it also comes down to, I don't always make the defining decision, me and my partner don't. We do have an ALS unit attachment dependent on the nature, which is a paramedic unit. If they see something, they have the ultimate say of what could happen. And then once again, in that idea of if you're unresponsive or unconscious, can't make decisions for yourself, we would take you to the closest appropriate facility for what is going on at that time. So, forcing a patient to go into the hospital is not something we like to do. But you have to be alert and oriented, meaning you have to know person, place, time, and event to make your own decisions. My staff has been trained to recognize those signs. So if you don't meet that criteria, we would actually have us take you to the hospital, but we typically would have law enforcement involved with that. Because it is, you know, at the end of the day, if I force you to the hospital against your will, it comes down to kidnapping. And I wouldn't do so well in jail, I don't think. So I preferably like to have some backing on that agreement between me and my partner. When in doubt, our supervisors are always available to our staff, so they have an on-call number. So if they have a question at 2 a.m., last week was my on-call week, so 2 a.m. I was woken up by my staff asking a question about something, and I happily got up, came down to the scene. I only live 15 minutes from town, so it takes me at 2 a.m. 7 minutes to get here. Went straight to the scene, answered the questions for the patients, and that was that. So having the supervisor on call, along with an additional ambulance, and then from around 9 a.m. till about 5 to 6 p.m., both our chiefs are pretty much present in the office to help ask and answer questions for our staff and the public. For those of you who don't know, we are located at 95 Walnut Street in town. And then to the newest addition of our address is 60 South Fullerton, where our training center is located. So we run public classes for CPR, first aid, stop the bleed, and a slew of other programs. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me later. Yes? So we do have a cost associated to that. The programs help the operational cost of our mission of getting the ambulances out the door. But as go pricing, they are the lowest in the tri-state area because we're not here to break the bank on anyone. I want everyone to feel confident in their ability to save a life and act if they take the training. That's my goal. I want my goal to be make Montclair the safest town in New Jersey. So.
Yeah, and we also have, we would be interested in maybe doing a senior class, a group class, and the bill would pay the services.
Happily to discuss that further. Thank you, guys.
So thank you, Jonathan.
Very welcome.
And now we have the Montclair Police Department that's gonna talk about how to keep you guys safe. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, or actually good afternoon. I'm Al Seggins with the Montclair Police Department. This is my partner, Officer Peterson.
Happy Wednesday.
So some of the things we're going to discuss today are all related to crime prevention. So some basic safety tips when you're going out. If you're going out, try to travel in a group. You know, try to get a friend to go out with you. Don't go out by yourself. Try to park in well-lit areas when you go out at night, and wear clothing that kind of makes it easier for people to see you. If you're out walking and somebody tries to take your purse or your bag or anything like that, just let them have it. Don't fight with them and have you drag like a push and pull on it. Just let them have it. Transportation. How many of you guys drive? So the majority of you. And how many of you maybe take Ubers or taxis or other transportation? When you're going out and you're coming back to your house, have the people wait for you to get inside. Don't let them just drive off. We want to make sure you get inside safely in case you were to fall or something happened. I do see that we do have a little scooter or the walkers. Those things are great. Again, you want to be seen. You can put a light on it. I did see you had reflectors on the back. If it doesn't have any reflectors, put something on the back so you're seen at night and even during the day. When you're out shopping in the supermarket, especially for the women, if you carry your bags, if you put it in the little spot where the kids go, take that little seatbelt that's in there and clip it in there. This way, when you go to reach for something, it makes it a little more difficult for somebody to walk by and just take it because it's secured to the shopping cart. We'll reiterate what everybody else is saying. Carry medical information with you. Always carry an ID. There could be nothing worse than something happened and we don't even know who you are, let alone if you have any medical issues. When you're going to your house, especially at night, have your keys in your hand. You don't want to walk up to your apartment door or your house and you're fumbling with your keys. You want to be ready to get in and out. If you see anything suspicious or anything like that, you're the victim of a crime, report it immediately. Call 911. If maybe you feel it's not a 911 related issue, you can call us at our non-emergency number, which is 973-744-1234. So scams are a really big thing. So we'll start off with the first thing, which is called a deception burglary. It's where somebody may go around and pretend that they're soliciting for business. Maybe they're a landscaping company, and while they're talking to you at your front door, somebody else is coming in through the back of the house to steal your purse or anything that's out in the open. These people may be a landscaping company. They'll pretend to be with the water company or PSE&G. So it's important to always keep your doors locked. Even when I'm at home, I lock my doors. My screen door gets locked, my house door gets locked. So it's a good habit to be in. If somebody does come to your door and claim to be from a utility company, ask for ID. If I wasn't expecting PSE&G to show up at my house, I'm not letting them in to check my meter in the basement or the water company to come into my house. You don't know who these people are. Even if they look super official, if they give you any pushback that they don't want to give you an ID, that should be a red flag that maybe they aren't who they're claiming to be. Immediately afterwards, give us a call. We'll come out, we'll check it out. Chances are if you call us right away, we'll catch that person as they're walking down the street and we can make contact with them and determine whether they're legitimate and they are with that company or there's somebody out, you know, trying to do bad. And always follow up with the utility company too. Next, we're going to move on to mail theft. How many of you guys still send out checks to pay bills? Okay. Not everybody does it electronically, and that's perfectly normal. If you're using a mailbox to mail things out, try to do it as the mail's going out on that schedule. So you know when you go to the mailbox and it says the mail's not going to be picked up till 5 p.m., try to put it in the mailbox as close to 5 p.m. as possible. Don't stick it in there on a Friday before a long weekend and you know the mail's not going to get picked up until Tuesday at 5. If you can, I know I've had difficulty with this when I give my mailman something to get sent out and it turns out it never gets delivered. You can also try that and see if maybe they'll deliver it for you. So the reason we're telling you that is the longer the mail sits in the mailboxes outside, they do what's called phishing, and it's exactly what it sounds like, where they're either breaking into the mailbox or they're sticking things in there to fish for checks. So what they do is they go in there and they get the mail, and then when they open it up and it's a check that maybe you sent out to PSE&G to pay your $300 electric bill, they will more or less alter the check to make it out to them, and they might add a 0 on that. So now it's not 300, it's 3,000. And that also goes with, if you're sending out checks like that, make sure you monitor it, track it. If you know that generally if you send it out on Monday, it's cashed and then taken out of your account by Friday, just keep track of that so you know what's going on. Try to use a pigmented ink, which is harder for them to get off the check, to where if they do that, it's going to clearly show that somebody altered that and it wasn't a simple mistake, because now they're clearly erasing somebody's name and filling another name in. Yes? It's like I can't think of a company that makes it, but like a gel pen. Like, you know when you write on it and you can almost see that it's soaking into the paper? Package theft is another big one. Amazon, there's people who will follow Amazon, UPS, FedEx, they'll follow them around and they'll just walk up and take packages right off your porch. Again, it's like fishing. They're either going to open that package and it turns out it's a pen, or maybe it's something even more expensive that you ordered, or it's your medication. So they do steal the packages. It's pretty lucrative for them because you never know what you're going to get. I mean, if you order off Amazon, I can't think of anything that I really don't order off Amazon nowadays. So report it to us, and definitely report it to Amazon, because sometimes Amazon will reimburse you or work with you when the package is stolen. So originally the Ring camera was a deterrent, but as time goes on, they just realize if I put my hand over my face, or after COVID with the masks, everybody's still wearing those and nobody thinks it's suspicious to be walking around with a ski mask on during the day when it's weather like this. It does make it harder for us to identify them, but it doesn't mean we won't be able to identify them. Because, you know, if you monitor your Ring and you see that a package was delivered, and 10 minutes later, somebody dressed like me comes up, and I'm clearly not with UPS or the post office, and I take your package and you call us, even if I don't see your face, I can still drive around and look for somebody who matches the description that you provided us off the camera. So it's not a deterrent anymore, but it does help with the investigation afterwards. Especially there's certain things that people change out when they're going out throughout the day, but then there's other things that they don't change out. Like they'll still have on the same bright colored shoes that they wear every day. Next, we're going to move on to identity theft. This is very big, and you know, I'm sure everybody in the room has worked very hard to build up their credit score and have good credit and things like that. So if you don't plan on applying for a mortgage or a car loan or any other kind of personal loan or things like that, you can actually freeze your credit and more or less flag your account to where if I took your information and went to go open an account to get a loan, they're not going to give it to me. They're going to call you first to see if it's actually legitimate. So with that, you can actually contact Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion. These are all the 3 credit monitoring companies. But again, you can more or less put a hold on your credit to where even if you were to go do it, you would have to unfreeze it.
But it wouldn't affect our credit rating?
No,
Or,
no. It's
that's a pretty good idea to do
yeah.
it for.
A lot of people don't think about it, and I'll be honest, I don't think a lot of people are aware of it, but it is an option. No.
But can you still use your Visa and MasterCard?
As long as it's already opened and it's not new. So again, things like your Visa, MasterCards, your credit cards and things like that, those are very safe forms of payment because they're kind of protected in a way to where if I was to manage to steal your credit card information and go make purchases, you can dispute it. And it's more or less, I didn't steal your money, I stole the bank's money. So it's credit. The bank is loaning you that money, or the company is loaning you that money, to where when you use your debit card and things like that, that's coming straight out of your account. And more often than not, once that money comes out, it's very hard to get it to go back in. Is everybody tracking on that one? So this is another scam that's going around. It's a phone scam where they call and they claim that there's somebody that they're not. So they may call and claim that they're with the water company and they need you to pay your water bill, or otherwise I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to shut the water off. You're not going to have any water. Most companies aren't going to just do that. What the scammers are also doing is they're asking you to make payment in weird ways. Like they'll ask you to go to CVS or Walgreens or any other place like that, and they'll ask you to buy gift cards. And when you get the gift cards, call us back and I want you to give me the numbers off the gift card, so then that's how they get paid. I don't think anybody in the room can say that they've paid PSE&G or Montclair Water like that. That's abnormal. That's something that if you heard that, just pretty much assume it's a scam. And if you're not sure that the person on the phone is who they claim to be, hang up. If you really owe them money, they're going to call you back. They're going to send you something in the mail. Or you can be polite and say, oh, I prefer not to do this business over the phone. I'll give you guys a call back. And that's where you just go get your bill and you look on there And it'll tell you if you want to make a payment, you can either do it electronically, you can send them a check, or you call them. Call the number on the bill. Call the number on the actual bill that you get. Another one's the IRS. You know, tax season just closed out. The IRS is not going to put a warrant out for your arrest because you owe back taxes. They're more willing to work with you than arrest you. So if somebody calls and they claim, oh, I'm Officer so-and-so from the IRS, you owe us $10,000. And then they haggle with you and say, okay, if you pay me $1,000 now, I'll clear it out and nobody's going to come to your house and arrest you. And more often than not, they also sound very legitimate. These are pretty simple yet organized rings to where when you give them a response, they more or less have a book they're looking at that they're flipping through to find the answers that they have to give you to stay on the phone with you. So when you say, no, I'm not paying that, the guy on the phone will flip to page 52 and give you another spiel that's going to hopefully scare you into paying them. The IRS is not going to be sending me to your house to arrest you over your back taxes or things like that. And again, if you're suspicious, hang up. If it's important, they're going to get in touch with you one way or another. But they're not going to be sending me to your house to arrest you. And they're certainly not going to be asking for you to pay them with gift cards. If somebody calls you and says that they want you to pay them with gift cards, just hang up. It's not real. A lot of times with your phones is, who still uses their house phone? A very few amount of people. I had a house phone when I moved into my new house, and the only people who were calling on that number were people trying to sell me solar panels or scammers. So with your smartphones now, it'll actually tell you whether that number's known to you or not. It might say scam alert. If you have it set on your phone, they can't even call you. It just goes straight to voicemail. So when they actually get you on the phone, the longer they keep you on the phone, the more likely they are to get information out of you that's going to help them get paid. And it also puts into their system that when they called that number, they actually got a live person who wanted to talk to them. So that more or less flags you in their system to give you a call back later at another time, a later date, to more or less try to pull another scam on you. If you think it's a scam and you're really not sure, hang up. Talk to maybe your significant other, maybe a child, or your son, daughter, whoever. Talk to somebody else about it. Don't just automatically do the impulsive thing that they're hoping you do because you get scared or worried. Another one is medical scams. If you have outstanding medical bills, again, they're not sending me to your house to get you to pay that bill, and they're certainly not asking for you to pay it in gift cards. How many of you guys have grandchildren or anything like that? Or even children that maybe live in a different state, a different country, different town? Anything like that where people will, or scammers, not people, scammers will call and claim that, your son was arrested in Mexico and, I need you to pay his bail, it's $1,000. And they more or less go back to that, the gift cards thing again. Billy was arrested in Mexico. I need you to pay it, otherwise he's going to stay in jail until we can figure this out. And they'll push it and try to make you scared. Now, say it's a grandson or a granddaughter or anything like that. They really push that even more. You might say, oh, well, I'm going to call Billy's mom and see what's going on. Oh, don't do that. Billy told us to tell you not to do that because he doesn't want to get in more trouble. Again, red flags. If I'm calling you and somebody needs to be bailed out, if you told me you're calling somebody else to figure it out, I'd be like, okay. Here's a number to call me back at. Let us know what's going on. How many of you guys play the lottery? The lottery? Very few people. I don't play the lottery. So if somebody called me and said, hey, you're the winner of a lottery ticket, but in order for you to get the money, I need you to pay us so we can pay you. That sounds suspicious. Believe it or not, people fall for it. And again, they're going to ask you to pay in some odd, weird way with a gift card or anything like that. Red flag, just hang up on them. And that's pretty much it for the crime prevention part. I do want to explain some of the services that we provide. So we offer what's called the Take Me Home Registry, to where maybe you have somebody in your household who has special needs, maybe they have sensory issues, or they wander, they have dementia. More or less, it's a system that you fill out paperwork and it goes into our computer, and we know that when we're responding to your house, if you do have somebody who has sensory issues, that we turn our lights and sirens off so we don't make whatever situation's going on there even worse, because maybe they freak out more or less because of the lights and sirens. Or if they wander, we get a picture of them and it gives us an idea of who we're looking for. So if you say they left the house 10 minutes ago, we know what we're looking for. So we'll have an officer go to your house and we'll speak with you. But as that officer's at your house, there's going to be several other officers circling the area looking for this person. It also helps us to where maybe they frequently wander. They get out of the house and they go places. It helps us track where they go, because a lot of people, some of us, we go to the same place. Every time they leave the house, they go to Edgemont Park. They like to go there and they sit by the pond, but you don't know that. That puts in our computer system for us to go check there. We offer home security surveys, which is more or less where we come to your house and we look for ways to improve your home security. Maybe upgrade your lock, make sure your windows are locked, those types of things. We have what's called the Blue Angel program. Okay, so that's another one. So this gentleman had somebody try to change the way his mail was going. So when it doesn't go to your address anymore, it goes to whatever address I wrote down when I wanted it to come to my house. And you simply went to the post office and asked them, and they helped you, right? Yep. So again, if you have any questions, call whoever it involves, which could be utility company or the post office, because it was a simple thing that you were able to correct. But it's another one of those things where scammers are trying to get around and circumvent the system to work in their favor. So the Blue Angel program, that's where we get your information and we work with you to have a lockbox. It's more or less a safety box where you set up the PIN number for the lockbox and it goes on the outside of your house. Maybe you lock it to the railing on the outside of your house, but it's for when you have an emergency in your house and you can't come to the door, but we really need to get in. It helps so we don't have to break down your door to get in. It's a system where that PIN number for that lockbox is with our dispatchers. So when you call us, we know that when we're going there, we can get into the house with that lockbox. It's just for emergencies. We're not going into your house to check on your plants while you're on vacation or anything like that. It's for emergencies. But again, it really prevents us from having to break down your door. But I will say this, if there was an emergency and we really had to get in, we'd break down a door, climb in through a window or something like that. We also offer the brown bag program. So a lot of us have medications that we don't necessarily use. It's an antibiotic or maybe pain medication that you were on for a certain period of time, and maybe your doctor told you don't have to take that anymore. So what you can do is you can turn it into us, and we put it in a box that we have at our police station, or we have a mobile box we use. But you can also go to your pharmacy and check if they'll take your old prescription medications. It's very bad when people take their medications and they flush them down the toilet, or they just leave them building up in your medicine cabinet. You have to worry about somebody in your household taking those prescription medications by accident, or in some cases they're doing it purposely because you want to use that medication for whatever the purpose was, especially pain medication. So try not to have that laying around your house. If you can get it back to the pharmacy or somewhere else where it's going to be disposed of properly, let us know. Any questions? So that's another important point to make, is now with technology and things like that, they do all sorts of things. They have phone number spoofing where when I call you from the system I'm using, it says that I'm PSE&G, but I'm not really PSE&G. Or you're not specifically talking to an actual person. It's artificial and it's actually manufactured. They can use other people's voices. They take recordings. So when you get that weird phone call where they call up and they're like, "Hi, is this Joan?" And you're like, "Yes." And then they hang up. they could potentially use that later on down the road to try to scam someone else or scam you at some other place.
With my pharmacy program, when they call you and they're gonna send you medicine, they say, is this so-and-so?
Yes.
And they tell you to say yes, so I'm afraid to say yes now.
That's one of those things where you gotta use your best judgment, and sometimes if you knew you were getting a call from the pharmacy, you kind of understand that. It's kind of you gotta look at what the percentage is versus it being a scam or it being your pharmacy. Because when they spoof, they may not say that it's Grove Pharmacy calling you. They're going to say that it's CVS. Now, if
The name of the pharmacy, they say who they are, and that's my pharmacy.
yeah,
And they'll say, is this Mary? And it says, say yes. Now I'm afraid to say yes.
and then is that an automated one that's asking, or is it a person? No, but is it an automated person, or is it an actual person talking on the phone?
I think it's recording.
Okay, so that makes it a little more difficult. But maybe you just use your best judgment. And if you don't feel that it's legitimate, again, when in doubt, hang up and call the pharmacy back and say, hey, I just received a phone call from you guys saying a prescription was ready and they were asking for more information, so I just hung up. In most cases, they're supposed to have a permit to do that. So you can call us, and we'll make contact with them and inform them, like, hey, you can't be doing this. You can ask them if they have a permit. Generally, that might make them say, okay, no, I don't have a permit, and they leave. Unless you plan on buying something, I'm not buying anything from somebody who just knocks on my door. Or maybe I'll say, okay, if you have any information, I'll take your pamphlet and I'll reach out if I'm interested. Definitely don't invite these people into your house. If I come to your house and claim that I'm with Montclair Energy solar panels, would you like to buy some? Don't invite me in your house. I know you want to be polite and you want to be nice to me. Don't even bother. If you're interested, take their information and that's it. Again, if you're not looking for that type of thing, sometimes don't even answer the door. Again, use your best judgment, but they are supposed to have a permit. So when you feel that they're illegitimate and they tell you they don't have a permit, give us a call. We'll be happy to go talk to them and tell them you got to go. So just the regular things that we've always been doing. It's just the regular things we've always been doing. We increase patrols, especially at night. We do things like our cars, when we drive down the street, some of our cars, they flip a light on and all our lights on top turn white so we can see up your driveways, we can see under the trees. Or you'll see our red and blue light that's not flashing, it's just on. That's more or less showing a presence that we're out there. But just because you don't see us doesn't mean we're not there, doesn't mean we're not around the corner. So one of the things we actually push, especially at night, is called the 9 p.m. routine. Just because it's the 9 p.m. routine doesn't mean you have to wait until 9 to do it. You could do it at any time during the day. It's where you kind of have a routine that, okay, I'm going to turn on my front light, I turn on my back light, front door is locked, back doors are locked, maybe you lock your windows. I go to my front door and I take my key fob and I make sure my car is locked to where if I press the button to lock it twice and it doesn't flash the lights, I know that maybe one of my doors is open or there's something that's stopping it from locking. Don't keep your keys inside your vehicle. A lot of the car thefts, unfortunately, have been from people leaving their keys in the car. And now they are getting to the point where they are burglarizing houses to get car keys. Generally with that, they're looking for the higher end vehicles, the Range Rovers, the Lexuses, the Mercedes, the BMWs. They're doing that to get those, and then unfortunately you may never see that car again. You have something? So I'll give you my personal experience. We got a new vehicle. One person holds it and see how close you have to get to it before you can push that on. But what I will also recommend to people is maybe don't keep your keys out where they're that close to the house. But yeah, it's more or less trial and error. You got to figure it out because my key fob might be different than your key fob. Or even in some cases, it might be close enough that it unlocks the doors, but it won't start the car. Because generally, if that key fob's not in the car, it's going to tell you key fob not present. I've been in some cars where I literally had to take the key fob and push the start button with it for it to start. Yeah, no, I can understand that. And with the car keys, keep them in a drawer, keep them where they're not seen. What they're pretty much doing is when they see your BMW in your driveway, they then walk up the driveway and they look in your window. And when I look in your kitchen window and I see all your keys on the countertop there, it makes it super easy. I can just climb in the window if it's unlocked, or maybe I pry the window open, I go in, I get the key, and I'm gone. And it's all very quick. I used to be able to tell people that they generally don't do that. When they don't have the key and your car's locked and your door's locked, they just left. Now it's to the point where they're really trying to get that car. I'm not here to scare anybody. I just want to give you that information and make it as plain as possible. Yeah, more than likely it went somewhere if you never got it back. I hate to tell people this. You know, I wish we lived in a time where you could just leave things unlocked and not have to worry about it. Don't leave your car running. Lock everything. Do everything that you can possibly do to prevent you from being the victim of a crime. We are out there. Like I said, I can't tell you enough. Just because you don't see us doesn't mean we're not there. We have cars that are marked, unmarked, police officers on bicycles. You have another question? So I'm not really prepared to answer any crime rate percentage-wise questions, but I mean, unfortunately, crime's always going to happen, and it's, you know, if it doesn't happen this year, it might happen another year. It's really all kind of at chance, if you know what I mean. Crime travels. Crime goes everywhere. Sorry, I can't really give you a percentage that it went up 10% or anything like that. I can tell you that a lot of it is property crime, where they're stealing things, like the burglaries. They're stealing the cars. They're stealing items. So we do enforce those types of things, but again, it's, you know, there's only X number of police officers that can be out at any one time, but we are aware of it and we try to enforce it as much as we can. I have heard a lot of people who say, well, I'm the pedestrian, I have the right of way, and they walk out into the street. Don't do that. You know, unfortunately, just because you have one car that doesn't stop or two cars, just wait until you do have that person who will stop for you. But we are enforcing that, and we do have things like, we call them pedestrian decoy operations, where it's a plainclothes police officer who's standing there and maybe they push the yellow button or they walk across the street, and when that car doesn't stop for them, they get stopped, you know, maybe 100 yards down the road by police officers who are on the side of the road.
Because as you know, we're having more and more pedestrian accidents than ever before.
I can't really speak on whether those numbers have gone up or they've stayed the same or anything like that. I pretty much, I just don't have those numbers. But I can give you that information, like, again, so you are aware that we know what's going on and we're doing the best we can to help with that. You had one in the back? Okay, so again, you got to give us a call. We don't know that's happening unless you give us a call. But you also have to understand, if it's on a leash and things like that, we're kind of limited on what we can do. It comes to people just being good people and maybe keeping their dog on a short leash when they notice that maybe you're scared, or if I know that my dog's aggressive, I'll cross the street when I see people. Unfortunately. The Montclair Police Department is not going to call you requesting money.
I called Montclair, they says no, and that's why when they call me back, I tell them no.
Yeah, pretty much. So again, somebody is calling asking for a donation and they're claiming to be from a police organization. Don't even bother with them, hang up. We're not calling you to ask for a donation. Again, treat any suspicious call you have as if it's a scammer. If it's legitimate, they'll get in touch with you one way or another, or you'll get in touch with them. Okay? I'll get with you afterwards. Good?
So, last time, thank you so much for the Montclair Fire Department, Montclair Ambulance Unit, and the Montclair Police Department. So they'll be here if you have any questions, but we have Life Alert, which is something we talk in some of the groups. What happened with people that live alone and they go through an emergency. So you have a table right here to go and talk, and they can explain to you how this works, how much it costs. And we also have Hackensack Meridian pharmacists that can answer any questions you have. Okay, and after that, you have lunch. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.